My father was born on December 6th, 1920, on his parents' couch in the living room, and according to his mother, my grandmother, she claims that he weighed 13 pounds. You know what? If you doubt this, you got to look at his first baby picture. It's unbelievable. Have you seen that? It's unbelievable. My dad told me that he grew up in a really tough neighborhood, and all his friends had nicknames, you know, like they used to do in the old movies, I guess. Like Blackie, his friend Blackie, because the kid had a huge head of black hair and huge eyebrows that were black. His other friend's name was Quacky because he walked like a duck. And then there was a kid that always pronounced the word lemonade, Nemonade, so his name was Nemmy. My dad's nickname was Mickey because his friends thought that he resembled a young Mickey Rooney. From the time my dad was 9 years old until he was 19, his family and everyone else in this country were immersed in the Great Depression. Hundreds of thousands of families could not pay their mortgages and were evicted from their homes. This condition launched my father into his sense of responsibility to help his family survive. At the age of 18, he went from shining shoes to joining Franklin Delano Roosevelt's WPA program. If you've ever visited Letchworth State Park and have seen all the steps that are there, those hundreds of steps as you walk through the park, my dad built a lot of those steps for a weekly salary of $10.40. In 1939, at the age of 19, he met my mother, Faye, who was picking beans with my father's mother and hundreds of migrant workers for 5 cents a bushel. They got paid $1 for every 20 bushels of beans that they picked. When my dad was 22 years old, the Japanese attacked on the U.S. naval base in Pearl Harbor, which led President Roosevelt to declare war on Japan. A few days later, Nazi Germany declared war on the United States, and America entered World War II. My father, who by now was dating my mom, joined the Army Air Corps. When my dad asked my mom's father, who didn't like my dad, for my mother's hand in marriage, he told my father, in order to discourage him, "She doesn't make a good sauce." Evidently, he didn't care anyways, because 5 days later, in February 1944, my dad married the love of his life and joined the incredible Tortora family, which was on my mom's side. The military stationed my dad to Eagle Pass, Texas, and my mom followed him there. He desperately wanted to go overseas to fight the war because his closest friends were sent there, but the military made him stay stateside to train cadets how to fly warplanes. It was by the grace of God that he remained stateside, because 3 of his closest friends were shot down in Italy. After the war, by the time my dad was 31 years old, he had my mother and had 3 children, myself, my sister Mary, and my baby brother Michael. Michael died at the age of 14 months in 1951. His death devastated my parents. My father had to work 3 jobs in order to pay the doctor's bills. At that time, the age of television was in its infancy, and with the encouragement of my mom, my father, thanks to the GI Bill, went to New York City to attend television school. During his time there, he drove home every weekend to be with us, and this was before the New York State Freeway was built. So he drove 10 hours each way every weekend just to be with us. After his schooling, he attained a job at Channel 4, where he built a stellar reputation as a news cameraman for 32 years, and made lasting friendships with wonderful people like Rich Newberg, Jackie Walker, Carol Jason, and Van Miller. He was inducted into the Broadcasters Hall of Fame in 2007. In 1974, my mother talked my father into going to a Catholic, charismatic, national convention at Notre Dame. And my dad experienced a religious conversion there that deeply affected the rest of his life. He spent the next 3 decades fervently working to protect the lives of unborn children. My dad was a great joke teller. Henny Youngman and George Burns had nothing on him. In our Florida retirement community, I was in charge of hiring entertainers once a week to, entertain people in my community. And there was one week where I couldn't get an act together. So I went to my dad and I asked him to come up on the stage. There are about 300 people in the audience, and to just entertain, just tell some jokes. So he comes in and firing one joke after another, and after about 10 minutes he looked at me and he said, "I think that's all I got." So I said, "How about telling a nun joke?" "Sorry, sister." And he spent the next 20 minutes telling nun joke after nun joke after nun joke. He kept everyone in stitches, and he never told a dirty joke. I never heard my dad tell a dirty joke, but his timing was so perfect. My mom suffered a devastating stroke in 1984, and my father retired from the job that he loved to take care of her every day until the day she died, which was the day after Christmas 8 years ago. My father, realizing that my mother was dying on Christmas Eve, insisted on calling Father Bill Quinlivan, who was our main celebrant here, to administer the sacrament of the sick to my mom on Christmas Eve. And I said, "Dad, what priest is going to come here on Christmas Eve?" Father Bill was there within 20 minutes, and he stayed with my mother for almost an hour. My parents' marriage lasted just 1 month shy of 70 years. My dad loved to go to Wegmans, Tops, and Walmart and ride around in his little electric cart, talking to the ladies and handing out suckers to their children. My brothers and I always got a big kick out of this because we thought he was flirting with these women. In fact, one day I walked into Walmart and I see the back of my dad. He's sitting in his little cart and he's talking to this very attractive woman, and in her 50s maybe. And she's, looking at him, how cute. And I said, I was behind me, didn't see me. I said, "Hi, Dad." And he says, "I'm busy." It wasn't until 3 weeks ago that I learned from several of those women that he talked to how much he helped them. One woman told me that my dad saved her life, that she met him in Wegmans at the lowest ebb of her life, the lowest time of her life, and that he comforted her so much that she actually got herself back to church. Father Bill Quinlivan told me that one day he parked at Walmart and next to him was a car that looked exactly like my dad's car, and said to himself, "Well, Mike's in there ministering to someone." By the way, my father was still driving every day up until just 3 weeks ago, the day before his stroke. My dad told me one day that since my mom passed away, he knew that my mother was praying for him because he loved everyone he met. I'm sure that you're here, all of you, because in some way you felt that my father loved you too. I've received many phone calls from friends, family, and from people I've never met telling me how much they loved my father and that he was a healing force in their life. My father's priority was always his family. Whenever he came to my house for Sunday dinner or a birthday for one of my grandchildren, he would always tear up and say, "This is my greatest joy." I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you who gave joy to my father's life, all of you here in this church. And I would also like to extend my gratitude to my family, to his brother Joe, for loving my dad as much as he always did, and for traveling all this way with his daughter Joni to be here with us. To my brother John, who lived with my dad for the last year and a half and made his meals for him and was always a good companion and a great friend for him. For my Emmy Award-winning brother, Mike, who shared his creative genius with my dad as they worked at Channel 4 together, and by the way, are the only father and son inductees into the Buffalo Hall of Fame, Buffalo Broadcasters Hall of Fame. For my brother Mike's wife, Bonnie, who was a fantastic nurse at Roswell, who advised us on how to care for my father. To my sister Judy, who was always supportive of my father and often made meals and ran out for anything he needed. To my wife Chris, who not only cared for my father's needs, but she also cared for the needs of everyone else. And especially to my sister Mary and her husband Gary, who took care of my father's needs almost every day since my mother passed away. And to God for allowing me the privilege of being his son. Mike Mombrea Sr. was a man of profound dignity, exceptional moral character, and a man of God, who spent over 100 years of his life caring for his family and his friends, until just 3 weeks ago, when he was finally struck down by a devastating stroke. His passing away leaves a huge void in our lives, but we are grateful to God that we knew him and that he loved us.